Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the No Regret Money Plan created for smart tech professionals who know they're doing well, but aren't certain if it's enough. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying about your money and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today on our podcast, I'm very excited to have Sid Jyothi, who is an AI native software engineer at Carvana. And he is also an experienced leader who specializes in building AI native software systems that multiply developer productivity. Welcome to the podcast, Sid.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Absolutely. So tell me about that. Building AI native software systems that multiply developer productivity. What does that phrase mean to you?
Ooh, to me, it means rapid prototyping. Usually, I'm the kind of person who experiments a lot with software, even without AI in general. But the main bottleneck to me before the whole AI revolution was time. I have all these like good ideas. I would start them out. Something comes in between. I just like leave them indefinitely, and probably will touch it a couple of years later. The technology changes, and I have to start from scratch, or abandon them altogether. Now with AI, I think it kind of like boosted my productivity a lot in the sense that all these 10 different ideas, I kind of am a fan of Cloud Code. I use it on a day-to-day basis. So I have these 10 ideas, like dictate them to Cloud Code and have them run through it, get the quick prototypes, and based on that, I pick and choose which one's best for me or where to guide Cloud Code, and then I kind of like build real-world applications. Actually, funny story, I have been like dealing with a wrist issue for almost like close to 2.5 months right now. It's
Oh, no.
undiagnosed, and I kind of like used OpenAI's Whisper model, which was open source, and built a dictation app. To be honest, I did not think much of it. I was just thinking it might be better than Mac dictation app, right? And the app blew my expectations. It's super fast. It runs in local. It doesn't store any of the recordings, not the transcripts, and it made my life so much more easier. And it's also helping like people in other teams within my company too. So that's one of the like the real world practical application that we've been using at Carvana, or at least like my team has been using at Carvana.
So let me just get this straight. So you created
Mhm.
this dictation app
Uh-huh.
and it's working really well, and you've shared it with other team members and other people are using it too?
Yeah.
Wow. And this is all because you have an undiagnosed issue with your wrist. So
Yeah.
when your wrist feels better, are you going to go back to typing or what are you going to do?
I think it's more of like I'd say mix and match. Usually, the Claude or ChatGPT apps on our mobile phones has this like built-in voice feature, and to me, it feels much more natural to just like talk with them and get my ideas out, or like just have like a refined notes of what I'm trying to convey. Sometimes it's just like raw brain dump of ideas. When it's coding, I'd also say something like if I want to like create unit tests or integration tests, I don't bother typing. I'll just like dictate to it. When I'm actually coding in parallel with the AI, then I actually like type with it. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's a bit of both.
So back and forth. Wow. We really are like going into the future here, aren't we?
Yeah, and also okay, I'm kind of a special case in that like I jump between tasks like way too often. So my method might not be like worth it for like many people like that, but at least the dictation app was like it definitely surpassed my expectations by like a mile.
But my guess is that you can speak faster than you type, right? So
Yeah,
if your ideas are bouncing around and now you can just speak it rather than taking the time to type it, not only are you getting things out faster, but like you alluded to earlier, you're not losing ideas, right? Because you're
yeah.
capturing them.
Yeah. The I guess the only difference is like if you have people I've known these people like throughout my career who think in code. for lack of better term, which is to me is like crazy impressive. And those people, they for them it's like their hands on the keyboard is a form of communication in and itself.
Mm.
But yeah, to me it's like kind of like switch between like typing and talking back and forth, and it's easier. The only one downside is like people near you might find it a bit weird, but yeah, you'll get used to it.
Yeah, and well, the important thing is you get to do it the way that's best for you. Like you said, even
Yeah.
sometimes it's better for you to type, but that'll all evolve. It's amazing the world we're turning into, and that brings us to our first question here on the podcast that we always ask, and that is, what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
Ooh. So, at least to me, leadership kind of like coincides with ownership in the sense that own the results. And also, that means share your knowledge, empower your team, make sure that you guide them, and then own the failures, but always give credit to your team for the successes. Also, I feel like this is just me personally. I feel like it's better to like teach people how to fish than to just like feed them. In that, in the sense that I feel it's okay for people to struggle a bit because that helps them remember the problem much more vividly, also the solution too. There's a fine balance with between like how long do we let them struggle versus when to actually step in and help the team too. Um, I'd say give the team a fair bit of independence. Make sure they don't deviate too much from the path. Always lead by example. Show them how it can be done. Encourage them how it can be done much better, and like sit with them, go through the results. Always like be encouraging. In my past job, I had a brief stint as a team lead. During the initial days of my team lead, I had this so much knowledge. I was leading a team. Whenever they had an issue, I was like, okay, let's figure out. And I was actually like doing much more. Down the line, I kind of like realized like this isn't the kind of relationship that I had with my team lead. And after some honest one-on-one conversations, I kind of like stepped back and then I gave them the autonomy to actually like explore more. And some
Mm.
of the ideas were like really good. We always don't get what we want, but that doesn't mean that like we have to like be pretty rigid in it. We never know what idea might result in a successful product versus a failed one.
Yeah, that step is really hard for a lot of people to go from, I envision what it should look like. I know what it should be. It's just easier for me to do it, or it's quicker for me to do it, to really thinking about the team. And really what you're doing is you're grooming them to be more productive in the future so that you can accomplish more in the future. It's not really about that one task.
Exactly. Like I usually had this mindset of an engineer, still do, but with the AI stuff like rolling out, I'm slowly kind of adopting this AI product manager mindset too, because the things usually I create might be really useful to me, it might not be useful to like other people. Getting that early feedback and actually stepping into like the product shoes like made me realize that it's not an easy job. You have to like kind of like figure out what the customer wants, and the customers don't always know what they want, and have to like meaningfully translate that to like tech people and engineers are like uh, I just like watched this funny YouTube short where the senior dev says like have the customers call the API. There's no need of UI.
Yeah.
Engineers are just that and they're like, oh, why
Yeah.
doesn't the customer do how we want them to do? But yeah, product has to like do the delicate dance of like, oh, I have this. I need to like talk it in such a way that the engineer understands this and also doesn't mutate it beyond, recovery. But yeah, that also like really kind of like sets the mindset like a leader isn't one who just like kind of like issues commands or orders. It's more about like how do I like guard my people, protect my people, but also like how do I be understanding of like the tasks or like the work that's given to me, and be more empathetic, I guess. Like probably most of the tech channels I kind of like view or this doesn't talk about empathy. Some do
Mm.
talk. Empathy is like really important in a workplace, in any kind of workplace, not just like the tech
Yeah.
workplace, because um, that one just I don't know, some kind task that you do or like the kindness that you show to a person may go a long way for the person who's actually experiencing that kindness. So
Yeah.
always I'd say like be objective, um, guide your team, own the results, good or bad, and always make sure your team is comfortable with you. I think the more the team is comfortable with the leader, the good rapport is built between the team, and also it leads to like more success.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the empathy. That's super important because it's such a it has to be a collaborative process. And people will
Exactly.
not collaborate with you if they don't, appreciate you and like you and feel like there's a positive relationship there. So and feel understood. We all as human beings, we all want to be heard. So that empathy as a manager is super important. And speaking of some activities that may not feel like they're filled with empathy. There are a lot of layoffs going on in the marketplace these days. A lot of challenges
Unfortunately.
in the job market. So, given that, what piece of advice would you recommend to future-proof yourself or somebody who's
Mhm.
working in case layoffs come their way? Because they always come out of the blue. They're never expected.
Yeah, yeah. I'll hmm, I'll probably have like two pieces of advice, maybe related, a bit contrasting too. The first I'd say is like never stop learning. Like always be curious. Try different skills. Like try even like jumping into different domains. Like make friends with like different teams and try to solve that problem. And if I mean they might accept it, they might not. But on the flip side, you've gained some really good experience about that product or like the domain. um Also, in general I'd say like try something totally out of your comfort zone, like you've
Mm.
never tried before. You learn so many things along the way by doing, rather than watching like 1,000 YouTube videos or like tutorials or something. There's always merit in like just like I said before, like failing, trying again, failing, trying again, and actually like reaching that point where it'd be like, I'm successful. Those small hits of dopamine that we get by actually doing is much more potent than like, watching just like an Instagram reel or something. Also, with this whole AI revolution, I'd say spend at least like 15 to 30 minutes a day focusing on AI. I know
Mm.
many people are on the fence about yet using AI. It has its good sides, it has its bad sides too. It's just a tool. It's how we use kind of like makes an impact on it. AI coding is not going to go away. If I were to say it's going to become like much more prevalent with the faster models and the token generation speed and everything, I'd say like learn to embrace it. Also, there is some stuff that AI isn't good at, like
Mm.
something like Linux system administration or like building kernels in C++ or that kind of stuff, which is still really cool. It's going to frustrate the engineers like to know, and but I'd say this is again like learning those new skills that would make anyone like irreplaceable. um, I'd say invest in yourself much more than just like picking one technology and like going to the deep ends of it. That might be useful now. In the future we wouldn't know. So it's always fine to even spend some money, get some certifications, networking, go to the whole AI conventions, events, get a lot of info from people, meet a lot of people, exchange ideas, have those wholesome conversations, and we never know. Somewhere, someone out there just might like our idea, and we'd always get this like one-off, opportunities out of like nowhere. It also like primarily deals with luck. We can't control luck, but what I'd say is like meeting so many different people kind of enhances that like luck factor.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, just
Yeah.
like anything else. So never stop learning and try something outside your comfort zone as well. and then all of the things around that, like using AI 15 to 30 minutes a day, invest in yourself, networking, meet people, change ideas. That's true. I mean, people are still the hiring managers. It's not
Yeah.
machines, right? So we've got to be cognizant of what people are doing and thinking and feeling. Just like the whole empathy
Yeah.
conversation we had earlier.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Oh, sorry. I'll just like give
yeah,
one more practical advice to is like
sure.
have an emergency fund. Emergency fund nowadays is like much, much more useful than anything. It would save the trouble of stressing out of those like day-to-day spending habits and activities when people are actually laid off, and people can just like focus on like searching for those opportunities. Always have an emergency fund. I'd say that's like a minimum non-negotiable. Like even if you're like, nobody's gonna fire you, even if you're a CEO, CFO, just like have something that might be useful, because unfortunately this is real world. Real world is messy. We never know what might hit us from anywhere.
That's right. And that's why it's called an emergency fund, because an emergency is something we don't expect, right? So that's a really good financial tip. Along the lines of the finances, what's the most important financial decision you've made in your tech career, whether it's about compensation, equity, personal spending, planning for the future, or whatever?
I'm gonna put a disclaimer saying that I'm not a financial advisor, so take everything what I say with a grain of salt. And I'll be like really honest. I'd be like the last person to take the financial advice from. The reason being, back in pandemic, um, I was in a good position to actually invest in the stock market to do like meaningful investments. I didn't out of fear and not having enough financial literacy. And when I had a chance to invest, I made such poor decisions that I've actually like
Hmm.
lost more money over this 5 years than everything.
Hmm.
But I've actually, I'd say it's a good learning for me. I've been proactively trying to get financially literate and course correct and improve things along the way right now. So I'd say if you're in your like early 20s or sorry, in your 20s or like early 30s, I'd say just go ahead and invest. Einstein called like compounding the eighth wonder of the world. So I'd say like definitely go ahead and invest. At the same time, not a financial advisor, so don't go invest in penny stocks or
Yeah,
something.
the only thing I would throw in there is diversify, right?
Yeah,
Invest but
exactly.
diversify, right? So,
Exactly. Like the index funds and everything, diversify. Like I say not, unfortunately, none of the schools in any part of the world teach this, but financial
uh,
education is such an important skill to have. And it, like I said, it's a skill, so it can be learned. It's right up there with social skills too. So
yeah.
always like learn more, make informed decisions, and early in your career, we can take informed risk. We might not have family at that point of time, and we are more like, um, we can take those risks as we like just age older. We'll become risk averse. We'll have like our families. Even the institutions that are betting on us are kind of risk averse. We're like, you guys are like kind of like getting old, so I'm not gonna like lend you so much money. But yeah, ultimately, what I'd say is like uh, invest a lot from the start. Like cut down on your expenses. Always have a tracker that shows the cash inflow and outflow. Track your spendings. Spend less, save more. And on that note, I'd say for anyone out there, don't be hesitant to be greedy when it comes to financial um, compensation. Like in the sense that, like, go out there, like, prove your skills. That's the whole visibility part, and then ask for more compensation, ask for more equity. I haven't done that. I've just like accepted like the blanket offer. I'd say like companies who went to like 5 to 7 rounds of interviews with you and they think you're like worthy enough to like join the workforce will pay more. We just have to ask for it. And it's nothing to be like ashamed of. We can help people, but in order to help people, we need to be financially independent. There needs to be a point where one day we can wake up and say, I'm not going to work today. I'm going to just like spend my whole day volunteering at like an orphanage or something, or I'm going to like build something for someone. I'm going to just like travel the world and like help people along the way. So I'd say like financial independence is pretty powerful. The earlier we achieve that, the more time we would have to actually pursue our other activities. So that's like one of, I'm kind of like preaching right now, but ultimately what I would say is like be very cognizant of like how much you're earning and how much you're spending. Having that one metric alone would save like so much of trouble down the line.
Yeah, I completely agree. The spending part, I'll just comment on that.
Mhm.
It's the only thing that you have 100% control over. And
Exactly.
for whatever reason, we feel bad when we're looking at it, or we feel guilty, or there's some barriers to us
Mhm.
doing this. But if you can get yourself into a mindset where you're just simply observing, and if you get the data and look at the data and observe the data, you will, and that's the only objective. If you do that, you will fix any areas where you're not getting value from your spending because you're aware of your spending. That's the whole key is if we're aware of what things actually cost, we already know how much we appreciate and enjoy them. If you put those two things together, your spending will be optimized. The problem is we just have this super, big barrier to just knowing what our spending is. So really appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, no worries at all. I think it's the innate fear of like just looking at the balance sheet. Like sometimes it kind of feels like there's pleasure to just like splurge on like something, and then that month having to look at the balance sheet, it's like the active fear of like, oh no, I know I've like spent on this item, and I don't want to like make the balance sheet for this month now. The problem with that is it kind of like compounds into like the further months too. Just
Yeah,
like saving compounds, like losses compound too. So it's always better to be like objective. If something's gone wrong for a month, it happens. It happens. It can be something like a house expense or like something like totally unexpected. But it's always better to be cognizant of it and just like don't let it slip away.
much better to be aware. Absolutely. Well, thanks
Yeah.
so much, Sid, for joining us here on the podcast. You've given us a ton to think about after today's conversation. Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the No Regret Money Plan, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their life with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Thanks so much, Sid.
Thank you so much for having me, Zoe. Thank you so much.